The envelope looked expensive. Cream-colored paper. Gold lettering. A law firm from downtown Chicago. I hadn't spoken to my parents in 2 years. Not one call. Not one text. Not even at Christmas. So when their lawyer sent me a document marked urgent family matter, I honestly thought someone had died. Then I opened it. Read the first paragraph. And burst out laughing so hard I nearly dropped the pages onto the kitchen floor. Because after everything my parents had done to me, they were actually trying to sue me for abandonment. My name is Sophie Bennett. I'm 31 years old, and 2 years ago, I walked away from my family with nothing except one suitcase, a panic attack, and a promise to myself. Never go back. Growing up, my parents treated me less like a daughter and more like a retirement plan. Not emotionally. Financially. My father owned a small auto repair shop that barely survived because he gambled half the profits away pretending it was investing. My mother spent money like consequences were fictional. Luxury bags. Jewelry. Furniture we couldn't afford. But somehow, every financial disaster became my responsibility. Because I was the smart one. The dependable one. The fixer. When I got scholarships, my parents celebrated like they earned them. When I landed a corporate accounting job in Seattle, my mother literally told relatives, "Sophie's success is our success." At the time, I thought it was pride. Now I understand it was ownership. The money requests started small. Just until next month. Temporary help. Your father's struggling. And because I loved them, I helped. 500 here. 1,000 there. Then larger amounts. Debt consolidation. Mortgage emergencies. Medical bills. Every crisis somehow landed in my lap. By 28, I realized something horrifying. I was earning 6 figures and still living like I was broke. Meanwhile, my parents somehow kept upgrading their lifestyle. New car. Vacation cruises. Kitchen renovations. Every time I questioned it, my mother acted wounded. After everything we sacrificed for you? That sentence controlled me for years. Then came the moment that shattered the illusion permanently. My younger brother Caleb called me drunk one night. "Sophie," he slurred, "do you know Dad used your name for another loan?" I sat straight up in bed. What? Silence. Then, "I thought you knew." I drove 6 hours to my hometown the next morning shaking with dread. And there it was. My father had used my financial information to co-sign business loans without fully informing me years earlier during paperwork I trusted him with. Technically legal enough to be complicated. Morally disgusting. When I confronted him, he didn't even apologize. "You make good money," he snapped. "Families help each other. Families help each other. Not exploit each other." Then my mother said something even worse. "You're acting selfish lately." Selfish. After years of financially carrying them. That night turned into the ugliest fight of my life. Screaming. Crying. Accusations. And finally I said the sentence that changed everything. "I'm done." Mom laughed coldly. "You'll come crawling back. You always do." But this time, I didn't. I changed numbers. Moved apartments. Blocked everyone. Even Caleb. Not because I hated him. Because I needed silence. Real silence. And honestly, the first few months felt terrifying. Then peaceful. Then healing. For the first time in my life, I bought things without guilt. Slept without checking my phone for emergencies. Lived like my paycheck belonged to me. Therapy helped me understand something painful. My parents didn't raise me to become independent. They raised me to become useful. Then 2 years passed. No contact. Nothing. Until the envelope arrived. I sat at my kitchen counter staring at the legal letterhead feeling sick. Part of me genuinely feared some horrible tragedy happened. Then I started reading. Apparently, my parents claimed I had emotionally and financially abandoned dependent family members after years of established support. I blinked. Read it again. Then laughed uncontrollably. Not happy laughter. The kind that comes when something becomes so absurd your brain short-circuits. Dependent family members? My parents were in their late 50s. Healthy. Capable. And the document actually suggested I owed continued financial support because I had created reliance through sustained monetary assistance. I laughed so hard tears rolled down my face. Because somehow, even after 2 years apart, they still believed my life belonged to them. Then came twist number 1. At the bottom of the packet was a handwritten note from my mother. Not typed. Handwritten. Sophie, this is your last chance to do the right thing before things become public. Public. That word changed the entire feeling instantly. Because suddenly I realized this wasn't about money alone. It was about control. Humiliation. Punishment for leaving. Then I noticed something else. Attached financial records. Supposed proof of hardship. And that's when the laughter stopped. Because the numbers didn't make sense. My parents claimed near bankruptcy. Yet listed luxury expenditures hidden between categories. Boat storage fees. Resort memberships. Designer retail charges. I stared at the pages stunned. They weren't desperate. They were drowning in performative wealth again. And apparently expected me to rescue them once more. Except this time. Through legal intimidation. I contacted the attorney immediately. Not emotional. Calm. Professional. The lawyer sounded exhausted before I even finished introducing myself. That caught my attention immediately. Then came twist number 2. The lawyer quietly admitted my parents hadn't told him the full story. At all. Apparently, they portrayed me as a cruel daughter who suddenly abandoned financially vulnerable parents after promising lifetime support. But after reviewing deeper records, he discovered something interesting. Most of my financial transfers over the years went toward paying debts connected to gambling losses and luxury spending. Not survival. And the best part? My parents accidentally provided years of bank statements trying to prove dependency. Those same statements exposed everything. The attorney actually sighed during the call. Ms. Bennett, off the record? I strongly advised your parents not to pursue this. I nearly laughed again. Then why send it? Long silence. Because they insisted. Of course they did. Then he said something unexpected. There's another issue you should probably know. Apparently, several debts connected to my father's business were already under investigation for irregular signatures. My stomach dropped instantly. Because suddenly I remembered those old loan documents. The ones I signed quickly years ago trusting him. The lawyer continued carefully. Your father may have represented certain authorizations, creatively. Creatively. What a polite word for fraud. That night I barely slept. Not because I feared losing. Because I realized something horrifying. My parents genuinely believed they were victims. Even now. Even after draining me emotionally and financially for years. Then Caleb called unexpectedly from a hidden number. I almost didn't answer. Soph, he asked quietly. Hearing his voice after 2 years hurt more than I expected. Apparently things at home had completely collapsed after I left. Without my money covering emergencies, the cracks became impossible to hide. My father's gambling worsened. Mom started secretly selling fake designer items online pretending they were authentic. Creditors called constantly. And worst of all? They blamed me for everything. Caleb sounded exhausted. They tell everyone you abandoned the family because you got rich. I closed my eyes. Of course they did. Then Caleb whispered something that changed everything. They're not suing because they think they'll win. I frowned. Then why? Silence. They need you scared enough to start paying again. And suddenly the entire situation became crystal clear. This wasn't a legal case. It was emotional extortion wearing a legal costume. Then came the final twist. A week later, my lawyer uncovered that my parents had already approached multiple relatives with a completely fabricated story. According to them, I stole family money and disappeared. But in trying to prove their claims, they handed over financial records that accidentally exposed years of tax inconsistencies and undeclared income connected to my father's side business. In other words, their own revenge attempt triggered scrutiny they absolutely did not want. The climax arrived during mediation. Yes. Actual mediation. My parents sat across from me looking older, angrier, smaller somehow. Mom started crying almost immediately. You abandoned us. I stared at her calmly. No. I stopped financing you. Dad slammed his hand on the table. You owe this family. That sentence hung in the room like poison. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty hearing it. I felt free. Then my lawyer quietly slid several documents across the table. Bank summaries. Loan records. Spending reports. Everything. My father's face changed instantly. Because now he understood. This wasn't just about their ridiculous claim anymore. They had exposed themselves. My lawyer spoke calmly. If this proceeds publicly, financial investigators may request deeper review of the disclosed records. Silence. Absolute silence. My mother stopped crying immediately. Dad looked pale. Because suddenly the people trying to threaten me realized they were standing on gasoline holding a match. Then came the moment I'll never forget. My mother whispered. So you'd destroy your own parents? And after years of manipulation, years of guilt, years of being treated like a walking ATM, I finally answered honestly. No, I said quietly. You destroyed yourselves the moment you confused love with access. Nobody spoke after that. The lawsuit disappeared within days. Quietly. No apology. No accountability. Just silence again. But this time it felt different. Not lonely. Earned. A few months later, Caleb visited me in Seattle. First family member I'd willingly seen in years. Over coffee he admitted something painful. You leaving forced me to realize none of this was normal. That sentence healed something inside me. Because toxic families survive through normalization. One person finally refusing to play along changes everything. Today, I still keep the original legal document in a drawer. Not as trauma. As proof. Proof that some people will call boundaries betrayal when they benefited from your lack of them. And honestly, sometimes I still reread the first paragraph and laugh. Because after stealing my peace for years, my parents genuinely thought a lawyer could invoice me for finally taking it back.